Sarah Campbell, and I am the color queen of flowers. I've designed hundreds of weddings with thousands of flowers, built a six-figure business, and became a viral sensation, all while raising a family. Now, I'm teaching you how I do it. I'm sharing the secrets that took my business from beginner to blooming. The kind of wow factor that creates that viral attention and attracts those dream clients. Of course, there are challenges along the way, and I am sharing it all. The secret to success in the world of flowers has everything to do with how you respond to the unexpected. So come with me as I share the strategies, the challenges, the unexpected, and the exciting world of large-scale floral design. On this section of Intrigue Teaches, I'm going to teach you how to make one of these beautiful 4-point wedding structures. This style can be adapted to be used as a huppah or a mandap or even a gorgeous showcase design placed over the sweetheart table. The options are endless. Hi, I'm Sarah Campbell of Intrigue Design. You may know me from Netflix's The Big Flower Fight, but I built my career right here in the wedding flower world. I am known for large-scale, over-the-top floral installations and weddings that are loaded with flowers. This love of flowers has helped to build a blossoming online community of over 10,000 members that have come together each and every day to connect, share, and grow together. Joining the Intrigue community is really easy. I'll make sure I leave the link right here for you as well. Now, let's focus on the task at hand, learning how to design this big, beautiful, over-the-top floral installation. This design you're about to learn was created as part of the Big Dreams Floral Installation Masterclass, where I teach 10 weeks of incredible, large-scale design that will take your wedding floral business to that next level of amazing. For this design, it's important to start with a sturdy structure. We use a standard pipe and drape system with crossbars. I've included a link to a shopping list that will show you where you can get all of these supplies that we used in the design. It is important to make sure that your base is set on level ground and that the crossbars are securely in place. You may want to add weights or sandbags to the bases, depending on the wind and, of course, the weight of your design. This is going to help to stabilize the piece. The bars we're using here have a double knuckle, which allows you to extend them to increase the height. For today's design, we're going to go with a standard 8x8 square. Now that the frame is in place and secured, it is time to add your netting. Netting is also commonly referred to, especially by me, as chicken wire. This particular netting is from FLORACraft, and it is coated, making it easier to work with than your run-of-the-mill hardware store chicken wire. When placing this netting, we use zip ties to attach it tightly to the pole. If your pole has holes in the side, you can run that zip tie right through the holes for added security. You're going to want to cover all 4 base poles with this netting. That completes the core of our structure. Again, if you want the details on how to get the netting and the poles, just follow that link. It's going to be right here for you. Let's move on to the fun part, the flowers, of course. We are going to design a series of floral cages. These cages provide support for the foam inside, which is soaked with water. Having a water source will help your flowers bloom bigger, brighter, and for a longer period of time. I chose to use a small cage for this design because I wanted to create visual bursts of color throughout the piece. As you will see, each cage is designed monofloral, which means only one type of flower can be used in each cage. So very similar to what you did with the stock, where you're gonna give me a mohawk and then a little tighter on the sides. And you're gonna go straight across and then tighter on the sides. 25 flowers is your budget. If you use less, that is okay, but 25 flowers is your budget. Monofloral, the reason I design so often is because it is faster, it is easier, and it gives you more of a punch. If you've ever looked at my designs and you just know it's one of my designs, it's probably because the way I group the flowers. As the designers are placing the flowers into the cages, you will see that they are creating something that I like to call a flower mohawk. Essentially, think of that iconic hairstyle of your favorite punk rock band and get to designing. What that means is flowers should be shorter on the sides and longer on the top. You will need 25 roses per cage, which is essentially one wholesale bunch. This creates an ideal shape to attach to your poles. John asked me, what is the proper length for your stem to go in the foam? This is very important for when you're doing retail work, and it should be about 1.5 inches into the foam. For what I do, as long as it's in firm, I don't care. Because what I do is temporary design work. If anyone's running a retail business, you cannot take advice from me for retail. I don't do retail. I do large scale, wham, bam, here it is. That's the focus. So again, it's got to be secure, and if it's not super secure and it falls out, we put it back in. We designed our roses first, and now it is time for our next monofloral grouping. We get to use one of my favorite flowers for large-scale designs, stock. This flower is amazing. You're at 30 pieces of stock. You have a larger mass than your last cages. I want to see bigger pieces, okay? Yeah. One color, one color. For the stock, we use these beautiful varieties bred by Ball that excited me so much that I just couldn't choose one color. The students are mixing the colors while still designing in a monofloral and monochromatic way. As you will see here, we are not using traditional cages. For these blooms, I wanted a longer and more rectangular shape, and I opted to wrap a standard piece of floral foam in netting secured with zip ties. This is a great technique to know for those times that cages are on back order or maybe just not available. When placing your stems, be diligent that they stay inside the foam and do not push all the way through, as it's important for the blooms to stay in the hydrated material. This requires the base of the stem to remain submerged in the foam. Each brick gets 30 stems of stock, so this can be a challenge. When you're going into your side on these pieces, I want you to think about pointing them up and out as opposed to straight across, okay? Because when we put them into the hoopah, it's often more difficult if they're straight and they break, but when they're forward, they settle nicely. Work with the product you have. Every week, your flowers are gonna come in, your wholesalers and the farms, they're doing their best to get you exactly what you want, but sometimes Mother Nature grows things differently. So rather than call your wholesaler and say, you know what, these stock aren't performing like last week's stock, work with your product. Did you happen to catch what I just said here? Your wholesaler is on your side and wants to give you the best flowers each and every week. Having done hundreds, maybe even thousands of weddings throughout my career, I can undeniably tell you that your wholesaler will be the most important cog in your system. Once the cages are designed, I organize them onto racks that are easy for storage and easy for transportation. We are finished with the cages of roses and of stock. Now it is time to move on to the spray roses. we are working with my absolute favorite variety of spray roses by the name of Barbados. Kind of islandy, I like it. And we're designing them in that same mohawk technique using these smaller cages. All right, you have 20 stems of Barbados spray roses, 20 stems, teams of 2, and we have 5 minutes. I like to get as much work done in advance as possible, and these cages can totally be designed ahead of time. This makes installing on site so much easier. After the cages are complete, we are going to attach them to a wood base. I developed these bases years ago to keep the flowers from rolling forward. These particular bases were created by our local co-host and are a little different from what I usually work with. During the Big Dreams Virtual Floral Installation Masterclass, you will see an alternate way to create a similar design. The boards essentially have hooks on one side and a flat surface on the other. You will attach your cages to the flat side of the board, and when you get to your poles, this is going to attach very quickly and easily using the hooks on the opposite side of the board. You'll see we've got these hooks in the back. These hooks are going to go right onto the hoopah, so we can take this over there completely set up and designed and just pop it right into place. So in order to give us some good dimension on this, we're going to take a mix of roses and our spray roses, and we're going to mix in some of our greenery in here. I like to alternate colors and varieties. I feel like it creates just a little bit of interest. You take your zip ties and you're gonna go in and around with your zip ties. So sometimes I'll go through the whole thing because I get nervous of these cages falling apart. Gonna zip tie it together, nice and tight. All right, and we're gonna zip tie these all the way through. Zip tie to the end. We always keep going one after the other to make sure we're connected because you want to watch your color balances, right? It's going to go in the truck completely done. So when we get there, all we have to do is hang it up. We're gonna go on either side. Do not go over the top of your foam. It will rip your foam. All right, so now we wanna make sure we have some space, but not this much space. So go over, there we go. And then we go ahead and just tighten the zip ties. This is so much easier than to have them in boxes in your van and then having to pick them up one at a time and hang them one at a time. Once you get your cages attached to the wood base, you will see that there are some holes. I like to fill in with greenery or those painted elements to complete my look. Okay, it looks like we have a ton of flowers all ready to go. We can start to wheel the racks out filled with flowers and carry our wood bases out to our 4-point pipe structure. The board is attached to the front of the poles using the hooks and then zip tied for added security. Let's get that second board up. Do you see that right there? We have a problem. The measurements were off and the board did not fit the back pole properly. In hindsight, I should have personally measured the boards before attaching blooms. But hindsight is always 20/20. We needed to find a way to make this work on the fly, just like we do in real events. We started by removing the pole and extending it to account for the added length. This, however, created a whole new issue as the board could not be anchored properly without rolling forward. As frustrating as this was, I'm glad that it happened. Mishaps in wedding design are a frequent part of the reality in the floral world, and we cannot give up when something doesn't go according to plan. After a bit of a struggle and lots of wasted zip ties, we opted to allow the base to tilt forward and adjusted the flowers so that they could fill the spaces. This took some extra time, but it was worth it for the finished design. Okay, the bases are up, and it is time to add the blooms to our legs. We began by zip tying the cages to the pole, leaving that chicken wire netting exposed for a later design element. Cages are only added to the front and the sides of the design. The placement of the cages is done in alternating fashion, similar to the way we design the boards. Once cages are secured, it is time to start the fill process. For this, I have selected a pairing of rust and peach painted greenery. You will want to layer these into the design, keeping each bunch bound together as a whole. This saves time and makes for a more dramatic impact. Now, I just got done telling you that bunches should stay together, but there's always room to bend the rules a little. What you are seeing here is a designer strategically spreading out the bunches on the top to give a fuller coverage against the board that we used. Working as a team, this entire build took about 3 hours from start to finish. This is not a design that can be done by one person. The elements of this design are easy, but it is time consuming, so plan accordingly. This design is going to be viewed 360 degrees, so it was important to have the back of the design looking lush and full. However, I needed a method that would be faster, easier, and lighter. So we took a series of what I like to call baby's breath snakes and attached them to the back and the sides of the design. This filled out those empty holes and created a beautiful soft edge on the installation. The snakes are created using wire netting and are easily attached to the poles. The story here was about the beautiful color and the bold blooms in the front of the design. The baby's breath was used as our supporting character. Once secured, the team came in to fill with smaller pieces of baby's breath and finish the design off. If you're eager and ready to find out the cost of the flowers that went into this design, follow the link. With the help of Curate, we have organized all of these details together for you. If you want to learn to design more installations like this, join me for the Big Dreams Virtual Floral Installation Masterclass, where you will be immersed in 10 amazing weeks of large-scale design, including floral chandeliers, floral walls, staircases, ceiling treatments, and so much more. All right, this is a lot of fun. That's all I have for you today, but if you want to see more of me, I'll meet you over in the Intrigue community.